Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I want to talk to you about a very solid bear case for Rocket Lab, and I also want to give you my opinion on it and why I think that this is not likely to happen, but I think that this is keeping a lot of people back from investing into Rocket Lab. So I thought it was an important video to make. So please make sure you sub to the channel if you like this content, and you can hit me up on X, Vince is Bullish, the same name as the channel. So let's get into the video. So a lot of people don't want to invest into Rocket Lab because SpaceX is taking up all the oxygen in the room, and they are the 20-pound gorilla or the elephant that nobody wants to speak about. And on top of it, they have a new spaceship in development called the Starship, which is supposed to be insanely cheap, and I want to show you a video about how cheap it might be. And a lot of people think that this is going to take away the competitive edge of Electron and their real place as a company, and they will just be outcompeted by SpaceX. So I want to show you this video clip, very, very important, and then I want to give you my take on this.
But this is all just a giant iterative phase. SpaceX is making a huge and powerful rocket. But what's it all for? Forget the size of Starship. The economics of this rocket is probably the biggest thing. Now, we're not really going to get into this pricing too much because we've talked about that a lot in other videos, but I just wanted to talk about price kind of generally to help put into perspective how game-changing Starship could be. And of course, only time will tell what the true cost of everything actually will be. Despite being able to take almost 10 times as much payload into orbit as the Falcon 9, Starship should cost less than the Falcon 9 to launch. In fact, because it's fully reusable, it should basically only be the cost of fuel and personnel time. But we're talking about potentially way less than a Falcon 9. SpaceX is hoping it'll cost less to launch than their Falcon 1 even. I mean, in fact, it very well might end up being the cheapest ride to orbit, period. No matter the payload. In other words, it could be so cheap to launch an entire Starship that you could put just, say, a small sat or a couple of CubeSats or something tiny on it, and it might be cheaper than launching on, say, an Electron rocket or some other small sat launcher. And that, my friends, is why Starship is truly revolutionary compared to even the Falcon 9. But in order to fulfill that goal, Starship will have to be reusable. Fully and rapidly reusable. So just how exactly can it do that? What hardware is different that's going to make that dream happen?
So he actually name calls specifically Electron, and you heard the man, he said that theoretically the Starship can be cheaper than launching an Electron rocket because it's so reusable, and this is a very, very big claim to make. So I want to talk to you about why I think that this is not going to happen in the way that many people think, and why I don't think that Rocket Lab is they're not really competing with SpaceX. So one of the first point is that the cargo load of the Starship is gigantic. Like, that ship is made to launch unbelievable amounts of cargo into space, right? And that means that for them to deliver small satellites, they would have to group together different customers that are going to different orbits, or they would have to group together huge constellations. And one of the advantages of Electron and Rocket Lab is that they can rapidly launch things to very specified orbits. And if you are a startup, let's say, that needs to have 5 satellites going into orbit, going on the Starship is like getting a pizza delivered by a truck. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Okay, so this is number one. Number two is the launch of the rocket the cost of launching a rocket is very misleading, because Musk says that to refuel Starship is about $200,000 or maybe $2 million. I think that's what he says. So the launch cost could be $2 million. But this is a very, very oversimplified statement. You need a space launch complex, which costs you money. You need the rocket itself, which costs you money. And depending on how many times you're reusing the rocket, you need to amortize that per the launch. So let me give you an example. Let's say that to build a Starship is $100 million and it's good for 50 launches. So just the price of the Starship spaceship is an additional $2 million per launch, okay? Then you have all this machinery and personnel around the launch. You know, when you watch the live coverage of a rocket launch, you see all these engineers with, you know, these top-notch computer screens and all these sensors and all the setup. And I don't know how many people are involved in launching a rocket. I wouldn't be shocked if it's like, I don't know, 50 to 100 people, and you need to pay those people. And obviously it's the same thing that if you're launching once a month, then if each person makes, I don't know, 100,000 per year, then it's too late for me to calculate it, but it's a humongous amount divided on 12 rockets. But if those same amount of people are launching a rocket every week, then you get 4 times the amount of launches divided on the same people. So the economics becomes a lot better. And this is also a very, very, very substantial cost. And how I know it is because I watched Rocket Lab's Investor Day, where the CFO detailed exactly how they're going to get to a stupidly high gross margin on their rocket launches. And one of the things that he said is that reusability enables them to increase cadence very, very much. And then he specifically said that because of how many people and how much cost is involved in just having the infrastructure in place, that itself cuts down super much costs, okay? So this is also why I don't think that the Starship is going to be able to be as cheap as Electron. And even if it's as cheap as Electron or comparable to Electron, it's still not going to be in the same niche, so to say. And now the biggest reason why I think that they're not completing, which is my reason number 3 on this list, is that Elon Musk is so focused on going to Mars. And going to Mars, according to his calculation, is going to take thousands of starships leaving at the same time, because there's a window every 2 years or 4 years, I believe it's every 2 years, when the planets are very close to each other, and then it's a relatively small hop to go over to Mars. And this is when you want to launch. So he would have to take his factories, run all these, build all these starships, shoot them up, and then they need to wait in orbit until this planetary alignment, and then he launches all these starships. And if you have read Walter Isaacson's biography on Elon Musk, then you know that he's so focused on Mars that at one point he called an all hands for his engineers, and Gwen Shotwell, I don't know if I butchered her name, told Elon, like, what the F, you cannot call all the engineers to go to Texas to work on the Starship because we have Falcon 9 launches for paying customers. And Musk told her, I don't care. Then you delay those flights, you find a reason to delay them, and we are going to get this Starship ready and launched. So Musk is not really after an economic target here. He's more after colonizing Mars. And that will take all his factory capacity for many, many years to come. So I don't think that he will be very big. He already managed to find Starlink, which has added, $100 billion to the valuation of SpaceX. And they're going to IPO this and sell a huge chunk of it. And he already found a cash cow that can fund his Mars operation. So I don't think that he will be chasing a lot of customers to shoot things into space. This is, the third point why I don't think that Rocket Lab is a very big competitor, or they're not really competing to each other. So now here's another point. In many industries, you can have a duopoly. SpaceX is definitely by far the number one in the rocket launch category. Rocket Lab is the number one in small satellites or small rocket in the small rocket category. But my point is that there is many industries where you can have two companies and they are doing just fine. For example, you have Apple and Android, or you can have Enphase and SolarEdge, and both of them are doing good. Or you can have Pepsi and Coca-Cola, and on and on and on. So it doesn't mean that just because SpaceX is doing very good that there's not going to be another rocket factory or another rocket company ever again. Then there is those industries where you have multiple companies that are doing well. For example, one of them is the auto industry, which is a very tough industry to get into. And the biggest company, believe it or not, is Toyota, with the most number of cars being sold, and they only have 11.1% of the market. And I think that the rocket launch industry is going to be between the car industry and these duopoly industry. I don't think it's going to be as many as car factories, but I also think it's going to be more than two companies that survive in the long term. But hey, there is about 250 startups trying to launch rockets into space. So that is just nuts. I guarantee you not all of them are going to survive. Rocket Lab is definitely going to survive. And another reason why it's for sure not only going to be SpaceX is because NASA has this policy that they want competition and they want private companies to get stuff done for them. And they don't want to only have one option. So if Rocket Lab would be doing very bad, I'm 100% that NASA would just award contracts to them to make sure that Rocket Lab survives and doesn't go out of business. And then on top of it, you have countries invested into Rocket Lab. You have New Zealand invested into Rocket Lab. I believe Australia is invested. You have huge pension funds. There ain't no way that they're going to let this company go bankrupt. So this Starship is happening, and I understand that it's very scary from a competitive viewpoint, but it's just not what the people make it out to be. And I guarantee you Rocket Lab is going to survive this period. It's going to be a heavy competitor to SpaceX. And the valuation of Rocket Lab currently is less than, or it's almost 100 times less than SpaceX. Think about that. And yeah, just think about that. They are 100 times less than SpaceX. They need to do, I'm not saying that they're going to become as big as SpaceX, but if they just become 10% of SpaceX's, activity or whatever, it's a 10x in the price of Rocket Lab. It's nuts. So this is why I think that Starship is not going to hurt Rocket Lab, and I don't believe in this bear thesis, but I thought that it was important enough to share it with you guys. And thank you so much for watching. If you did, please let me know in the comments what you think. Please make sure you are subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.